Welcome to the D&D Fitness Radio podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Don Saladino from New York City and Derek Hansen from Vancouver, Canada. In episode 46, we speak with powerlifter and author Josh Bryant.
Listen, so Derek, let me introduce Josh Bryant. Josh, you're someone I've been following for a very long time. I think the first time I heard about you was through your Jailhouse Strong book, which I thought was awesome.
Okay, cool.
A lot of fun. You have the prestigious title Master of Fitness Sciences, co-author of Elite FTS's best-selling book. What's it called again? Metroflex Powerlifting?
Metroflex Gym Powerbuilding Basics.
Okay, and I'm going to try and remember this off the back of my head, but guys, keep it down. Sorry. So off the top of my head, guys, shut the up. Bleep that out. Everyone keep it down. So at 22, I think you were the youngest guy to bench 600 pounds.
You're correct.
Do you still hold that?
No, actually, guy that I coached beat it.
How'd that feel? Bittersweet?
That was awesome.
Yeah, about to say. Good for you. Good for you. But squatted over 900 pounds, deadlifted over 800 pounds, and you actually PR'd it over that 600 pound mark, correct?
Yeah, I got 620. Mm-hmm.
That's sick, man. Did you do that all in one meet?
No, it was a few different meets, yep.
So can you kind of go into your background a little bit? I want to hear about like how you got started, let's start there. How'd you get started, your inspiration, and then how did you get off into this? This is interesting. I mean, you're a big, strong guy, but you really got off to be being known as a pretty well-known writer, right?
Yeah, so basically I got started as I think I was like 5 years old, and I was watching pro wrestling a lot. And my dad would play racquetball at the YMCA, so I just would sneak in the weight room and start hitting it. And then by the time I was about 12, they actually let me work out in there where I didn't have to sneak in anymore, and got it that way. And then, I got into boxing, football, track throughout high school, played a year of college football, and the whole time I loved lifting. So after that, I decided I'm going to pursue this full time, and did, and went on to become the youngest person to bench press 600, win strongest man in America, and all sorts of things. But along the way, I think what happened is I got into, so I was about 24 or so, and I got into training people full time at 24 Hour Fitness, and it was good. It was good to work with different people, but I knew that wasn't really like my bag of tea, one of those kind of box gyms. So from there, I decided to move to Nashville, and I was training still, myself. And I started, personal training people, and that became in higher demand. And so what happened is, a lot of people were interested in the methodology I was using because I was getting good results with people. So I started from there. A few years later, started writing books, and since I had so much success with that first one, Metroflex Gym Powerbuilding Basics, kind of took off from there. Just I had no idea that that many people would buy it. I thought it was more just like a cool thing to do, because I wanted to do it versus actually, earn a living and do things like that.
How did you market it? I'm curious because they are, great books. I've been a fan, and I'm always on Amazon, with the ebooks and stuff like that. I'm a total sucker for that stuff. I love just ordering it, reading it, and whatever.
Same way. I buy like a book a day, it seems like, but anyways.
Yeah, no, crazy.
Yeah. So the first one was Elite FTS. They did a really good job of marketing that book. So, and then it also happened it was sort of like, Einstein said, like, coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. It's sort of like it all just kind of worked out in the sense of literally I had someone deadlift the best deadlift in the country that weekend. Then Bryant, the owner of Metroflex, was training Branch. He won the Arnold that weekend. So we kind of opened the article of hey, look what just happened this one weekend. If you guys want to know what we're actually doing, here it is. So it kind of was I guess it's kind of like synergy. It all worked out. And then Elite FTS pushed it, and and then it kind of took off from there.
So are you still working with Elite FTS at all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think they've gotten, their ebooks on there aren't as popular as on Amazon, obviously, anymore because they've gotten into the game, but absolutely.
Did you work with Branch Warren at all, or is that just a completely? I mean, you're more in the strength and conditioning world. Branch is obviously a bodybuilder, but you do kind of cross paths a little bit in a lot of the programs.
I actually did work with Branch quite a bit. So on both Brian and I had trained Branch, not at the time that book was out, but after I did. And he hired me to bring up his chest and his back. We're actually, It's funny you mentioned that because I'm working with Johnny Jackson right now. He's making a comeback with powerlifting. And so Branch, we called him the other day. Nothing to do with training. We were like, there's a long story, but we were making kind of inside joke. We wanted to get his take on it. So we called him up and he said he's interested in possibly getting back in his shoulders. He got surgery. So he wants to get his chest strength back up. So I think we're going to meet up pretty soon and discuss that and see if it's in the cards.
He's a beast. Branch has got to be what now, 45?
He's
Branch
40, born in 76, so maybe like 43.
Oh yeah, no, I'm 77, so I'll be 42 next month. So I mean, he's a and Johnny Jackson. I mean, Derek. I mean, Derek. Just to give you some background on Derek. Derek's probably I consider one of the most world-renowned run coaches, sprint coaches. So
awesome.
we all have some crossover, but it really I think interests us what you do. But Johnny Jackson, I mean, was he considered one of the strongest bodybuilders? I mean, everyone's always leaning towards Ronnie with his, 805 triple deadlift when he was, contest dieting. But how would you compare Johnny Jackson to him?
I would say if you factor in body weight, obviously Johnny Jackson have a leg up there, but Johnny Jackson deadlifted 837 or 832 in competition. What's funny about that though is when he deadlifted the 832, so it was like on the second. So in a powerlifting meet, if people don't know how it works, you get 3 attempts. You can't go backwards. So if you start too high, so like let's just say for example, if you did 800, you can't go back to 760. You kind of like have to either do that or go up.
Right.
So we went to 771. He said that was when he wanted to open at. So we did that. And it looked so good, we jumped straight to 832. He did it like it was an empty barbell. I mean, like a bar. It was insane. He got so excited, he threw the weight down, which is a technical violation. So didn't count. So crap, we got to, do it again. Smoked it on his third attempt. So I don't, to this day, I don't know what he was capable of that day. So like the way that moved, certainly in deadlift, he would have been stronger than Ronnie for sure.
What would your guess be? What do you think he would have pulled if he got the 831 clean and put it down? What do you think he's hitting right after that?
I would have gone to 848 to on the low end to 859 on the high end. But I would have gone, like I said, that is a slam dunk. Let's get this, because his best prior to that was 804 and kind of a shit. And like, if for people that don't know lifting, they have raw lifting, which is like you only wear a belt and like wrist wraps. Not wrist straps to help you grip the bar, but like supportive wraps, or you can wear suits that assist you, and they can assist you quite a bit. So prior to that, Johnny's best deadlift was 804, but it was in a suit too. So now he's up to 832 raw, and so it was kind of uncharted territory because what happened is, a good lesson to learn for people here is he was supposed to do a deload workout, which if people don't know what that means, it means like a lighter workout. So I was gone to California for a week. And I go out there a lot because my family's out there on vacation stuff, do business out there. So we planned it where the deload week would be over in California. So tell him, here's what you need to do. And since he felt good on a deload week, you're rested, he went like ape shit on squats and all this other stuff. And we went crazy. And so then I got back there and, he was supposed to go up to 830 that week because we're going to always hit more in a meet than in training. And he missed it. So like kind of threw a monkey wrench in the plans. I don't know where I would have thought based off of he would have got about 25 more pounds in the meet than in training, which he did. But had that not happened, we still joke about that to this day. I don't know where he would have ended up. I think that day though, 859 was there probably.
Jesus. It's funny too. It's I was just commenting to someone the other day. There's this movie called Without Limits. It was with Billy Crudup. I don't know if you guys remember. Derek, do you remember that movie? It was the Steve Prefontaine story when Steve Prefontaine, one of the greatest American runners, Yeah, with Bill Bowerman, and Prefontaine was like a front runner. And he would his whole thing was he'd like to come out of the gate and run as hard as he could. And yeah, there was no like laying back and then stealing the race at the end. His words were he thought it was chicken shit. Some of it, it's funny, like, and I'm not, and this isn't an insult to anyone at Metroflex, because I think they put out some of the best, bodybuilders and probably some incredible powerlifters that I don't know about. But I feel like there's a lot of front runners there. They're just guys that are strong, and you're bringing a little bit more of this, a little bit more of a theory, a little bit more of a scientific approach to the table. So how was that received? Because a lot of people just want to take this Rocky type mentality, like go 100% every single time. And Derek and I roll our eyes to it. Derek, it's sure as hell not like that in running, right?
No, like I was going to ask, like, it's interesting, like the competition violation you were talking about, Josh. And, and so would there ever be a conversation like, hey, you got that. Why don't we just move up for the third attempt? Because I know people have done that in Olympic lifting.
Absolutely.
And high jump, right? Like, would you ever do that?
100%. But it was so far above what he'd done that we didn't know. So that it kind of, I was thinking like, okay, at first let's go get to 832 no matter what. That's a very successful meet. From there, maybe roll the dice, but then I'm like, that was so good we could go to 840. But it would have ruined the meet because this thing had a lot of build up to it because he'd been like, I don't even know what the hell he's, because before I was on social media as much, but he had like somehow like you could, I don't know, like rent the video or some crap and watch it at your house and all this stuff. So I don't know, like he had to make the lift for a lot of reasons. Mm-hmm. So that would be a formidable strategy, but at this meet, it wasn't like there was like money on the line or anything like that. But the first time I ever squatted over 700, I did that. I missed the second one on depth, but it was an outdoor meet. It was kind of cold and it was starting to warm up, and I knew I could hit depth. It was just a little cold, so I said, screw it, I'm going to go for it. And I've done that a lot of times.
That's awesome.
Yeah, especially in a violation like that. It's like it's excitement. It's not like. Because like you said, you're like a lot of animals at the gym. And, how do you refine the animals? You don't want them to lose being an animal because then, you have a smart pussy, right? for lack of syntax here. So that's why I've been able to connect with people because they view me as like gruff like them, but smart too. So I kind of got the brat.
You're like you're bringing a very, it was a compliment. I mean, you're bringing a very good thing to the table. You look at someone like Bryant, who I know has been criticized a lot, like in the past, probably well before you've known him. I mean, I consider Bryant a very successful bodybuilder. I mean, he did win the Arnold, right?
Yeah, 3 times or 2 times at least.
Yeah, so he's won the Arnold. He never won the big one, but I think he got – how close did he get in the Olympia? He made top 5. Second. He made – what year was that?
2011, the year Phil Heath won it the first time.
Oh, wow. All right. So – I mean, in my eyes, very, very, very successful bodybuilder. But, when you look at his training a little bit, I'll be the first to say it. I'll probably, if you knew me, you'd shoot me. But, yeah, a little like kind of going against the books a little bit. I mean, he really is. Like, some momentum going on. And everyone's, I remember Ben Pekulski and what was that? Generation Iron was criticizing his technique. And, then Branch is bouncing back with, well, he'll never be as good of a bodybuilder as I am. So it was interesting to see some back and forth there. But, it is interesting with bodybuilding because everyone, I mean, bodybuilding is about creating tension, right? I mean, it's about really trying to traumatize the muscle and how does it recover as quickly as possible so you can beat it up again and it can build to get bigger and stronger. And I don't know, I thought about it for years and I was always wondering like, wow, what if Branch just slowed down a little bit? Maybe he wouldn't have been as good of a bodybuilder. Maybe he wasn't able to contract the muscle that same way if he slowed down and did time.
I got something to put on that. So I got it on YouTube somewhere, but I did one day we were going to do a video for Gas about the clothing company out of Destination Dallas. And I don't remember, whatever happened didn't show up, whatever didn't work out. And they're like, you're already out here. Let's figure out something to do. So Branch was working arms and I wasn't even part. I'm like, I'll just follow him around and make commentary then. It was okay. So we did that. And we got the camera on his biceps. So like he's doing like ballistically just swinging the weight, but you could see the tension increasing. So what I always say to that is probably neither of them will like to hear this, but I think if BPAC trained like Branch, he'd get some benefit. And I think if Branch trained like BPAC, he'd get some benefit because we had totally different stimulus. So like when I went with Branch, we do like a lot more like, if I got some of the videos on YouTube of like squeezing, contracting, Where if someone like BPAC, you might just say like, dude, just let it hang today and, you know, swing some weight around. I think they would both could probably benefit from each other. We always joke about at the gym. There was a guy that would like made Branch look like it was like perfect form and everything. So if like BPAC came in and had a heart attack, but this guy would benefit so much from, you know, just, you know, his style.
Right. And I do believe in that. I mean, I know it doesn't sound so scientific, but, you know, our bodies do adapt to the way that we create tension. And, you know, if you're sitting here all the time and it's like, you know, even like, let's just take a bicep curl, for instance, and you're completely isolated, the shoulder's sitting in this perfect position that someone like BPAC would want you to be in. It's just all about elbow flexion extension. Well, where I would argue on that is, yes, you're creating tension, but I'm arguing that you can't load the muscle as heavy. So fine, there might be some risk reward with the joint. And Derek, I want to get your input on this, but it really is the truth. I mean, bodybuilders, I mean, they definitely have taken a lot of flack in the past, but that's their sport. I mean, golf's not good for us. Hockey's not good for us. You know, baseball's not good for us. We're asymmetrically moving one side of the body. Like, bodybuilding's your job. Like, you have to build muscle. Like, who said it has to be good for you, correct?
Totally correct. So I think it's just a different stimulus. Like you said, Derek's into sprints, and I noticed that I had a conversation for a couple hours with, you guys know Alvar Mill?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Talking about sprinting a lot. And just I worked back into it, just doing like, you know, did like 20 sets of 14-yard sprints, not very far, but I really worked back in, and I could feel like everything in my body, like for like 3 days after, just felt tight when I walked around in a good way. And it's just because I've been doing some like tempo running and stuff, but not actual sprinting. And just getting that extra little bit, it was like a totally new stimulus. Like my glutes were sore in a way that I've, you know, never felt in the weight room before.
Right. Derek, who was our podcast last week?
Alvar Meal.
Seriously?
Yeah. You're following Alvar Meal. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah. No, he's, and he goes out. He's in his mid-70s, and he'll go run sprints and throw the shot put and stuff. So it's great.
I think he's got to be close to 80 by just I didn't ask his age, but just by what the years he was saying, he has to be.
He looks great though. I think he looks. Yeah. I mean, he looks great. I mean, the guy's sharp as attack, man. I mean, he is like, he was. I mean, if Derek and I didn't cut him off, I mean, he could have spoken for another 3-4 straight hours without even us. We didn't get a word in.
So that's when he was talking to him. I didn't want to get a word in. It's like I didn't realize how sharp he was. I thought he'd be more old school, like, you know, like. No water, and like, you know, don't be a pussy, and like, you know, we're gonna practice in the sun for 4 hours. But I didn't realize how refined and intelligent he was. I mean, I knew he would be smart, but like I was blown away.
What do you find, Derek? Jump in for a second.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, he probably used only a part of his brain when he was working with the basketball players, right? So because he had so much knowledge there, right? So, yeah.
This is what I've really been getting intrigued on this topic. When you take a bodybuilder or a power lifter, even a West Side guy, which I know, you know, really, you know, he's kind of coined the whole dynamic effort, max effort, your speed days, and he's kind of claiming you can almost train for it all, correct? But do you feel like when you're training these guys, there is a level of, you know, like you said the other day, you went out, you did 14-yard sprints. And I felt it recently. I've been doing, like in the past, I've been doing a lot more powerlifting, and then I got sprinting and moving, and I'm like, whoa, like everything is just tight, everything is just sore, and I feel slow. So do you try and counterbalance that? Is that something you don't focus much on, or do you kind of go through blocks of training with your athletes and yourself, or throughout the year you need to implement that?
Definitely blocks of training. So I would be like a thing of like, you know, I think they're more along the lines of let's be ready for a meet, you know, every day of the year. I'm more like, we got 3 a year. Let's make them count. And I don't care if you're, you know, 90% as strong as normal, as long as we can hit the big lift when it counts. So definitely be a, you know, different philosophy there.
And how often are you running? Like, how often are you getting your athletes and trying to sprint them, or just trying to get those specific fibers moving?
Usually on like the stronger guys like that, not actually like going to sprint them with no load there, because the problem is they're so damn strong and can produce so much force. They'll tear things because they have the power to do it, but like just how you can't just go out and throw 100-mile-an-hour fastball in the major league without any kind of preparation. So I do like on a prowler or some kind of like, you know, sled to slow them down, or up a hill to to make it safer for them. That's my biggest fear is, you know, like, because when I did it at first, I didn't feel any, like when I've been running it all, I'm like, when I was doing the tempo runs, I'm like, I don't feel any slowdown, even though I'm not going my fastest. I can run really fast. I could just haul ass if I needed to. I could tell. And then the sprinting, like I could feel that I had that power there. So that if you've been training that way, a lot of times you might be faster than you think you are, especially a lot of these guys. Because I think, you know, with speed, a lot of it's to a point, you know, obviously be a top end, but your strength to body weight ratio. So like if you can produce all that ground contact force and you're not, you know, relative to your body weight, I mean, I wouldn't like to be like sprinting these guys unless they're ready for it. So usually like some way to slow them down a little bit.
Eric, anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great observation. Like it's, you know, I speak to a lot of professional teams and talk about like you need to incorporate more sprinting, but it's got to be a progressive introduction. You can't, you know, like you're not going to squat somebody heavy who hasn't squatted for a while. It's the same with sprinting. You do a little bit of volume, you pick up the intensity, and yeah, and then you're good. Then you're exposed. You've been stress inoculated. But yeah, definitely good observation.
Eric, how do you? Sorry to interrupt. How would you recommend? Are you still following that same protocol, the hamstring protocol, when it comes to re-implementing sprints? So you have someone who has a training age of, you know, not a year or two. They've been training a while. How do you start implementing that back into where you can get their body fast?
Well, here's a great example. Like we had a guy who was doing powerlifting. He's out of Michigan. His name's Hunter Charneski, and if you check his website or his social media, he's 270 pounds. When he came to me, he says, I want to be a sprinter. And he was a power lifter, right? I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of different. It took us 6 months of getting through soft tissue injuries, right? And just there was a process of teaching him how to relax, but also exert himself maximally in a sprint sense. But there were a little hiccups, right? Because he didn't understand like muscle tension is different in sprinting than it is in powerlifting, as you guys know. So it took us a while, but now we put him in a track meet and he ran a 60-meter sprint a month ago, and he looked fantastic. So it can be done. It's just a different approach, right? So
I wish there was a way to be able to kind of quantify if he was close to the fastest he's ever been in his life, or he was actually able to get faster because he had proper training and proper technique. I mean, he probably never went through 6 months of speed training like that, correct?
No, I think he played some football, and then he went and he, you know, did the West Side program and power lifted and deadlifted, and, you know, massive guy, strong and great body composition too, but he just wasn't neurologically set up to sprint maximally yet. So I had to give him caps and say, okay, you're going to go out and run at 75% and then build him up until he understood and wasn't hurting himself. So, you know, I would think it would be the same if you took a sprinter and said, okay, we're going to do powerlifting, and we gave him to Josh. You know, he's going to have to progressively build up all of these qualities.
Absolutely.
You know, so just to be safe. So,
Gosh, what's your training like now? I mean,
well, I think just to touch on that sprinting, and I think let me just say one more thing about this. I've noticed like what you guys are saying here is like a lot of, for instance, where I live right now. When I first moved in here, I saw somebody on the street and doing some sort of interval training, and because we have all the houses like we have a lot of bike lanes and stuff in here, so there's like kind of off the road. This guy said he was sprinting. I'm like, dude, that's like a jog. So I think the point being like a lot of like when Men's Health puts out like a workout of like, hey, you know what, start doing like 50-meter sprints or whatever. Most of these people aren't even, you know, I don't know if they understand sprinting or if they don't have the power to actually mess themselves up, because a lot of people don't even have the power to rip a hamstring. They can't possess that force. Where like a lot of people I'm talking about, they, you know, for at least the first part of a, you know, 100-meter dash or something, probably about as quick as anybody, at least the initial steps. So they have all this power, and like they don't know the correct way to do the muscle tension and all this crap, and it's a disaster if they do. So I think I totally agree with Derek on that of like building up to, because like I've been doing a lot of tempo runs and stuff like that before, and it was like, so this was like, so I guess the first time I started doing this was like March. Then 2 weeks ago I did the first full sprint. It was 12 yards the first time. So however long that is, over 6 months to build up.
Yeah, that's a good plan, because when we do the hamstring rehab, we don't go more than 10 yards with people. So it's a kind of a safe distance to really, let your output go. But yeah, you don't want to be dropping like a V12 engine into a Honda Civic and just let it go. Like, it's just not going to work, right? So
Yeah. So anyways, back to what we asked about my training, a lot of it now is besides powerlifting, bodybuilding, a lot of people I work with are more like tactical athletes, so like military, police, things like that. So that kind of happened on accident, in the sense of like I was posting videos of myself training, and they were contacting me just saying, like, I wasn't like, I'm trying to like some marketing genius there and thought, like, if I start posting this, they'll just come. It wasn't like build it and they'll come. It was just like, this is how I like to train. If I'm not powerlifting, I want to be moving. So now more like that. So like a lot of like, so I'll do, like, for instance, today I'm going to get the sprints up to 16 yards a day, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do heavy. I'm going to do it in sand though, because I actually added that with the full sprints that were in sand, because I'm still not ballsy enough to go on a flat surface, because I feel like I'm hauling ass right now. So we go the 16-yard sprints, and then also do like, not kettlebell. I don't know what the hell it is. It's like a special thing that's like you load plates on it and do like a swing, like a kettlebell swing, but you do a lot heavier. So I'm going to do that today.
It's like a plate-loaded kettlebell kind of, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. So, and then I'm going to do, so then yesterday I did some like lighter upper body training, like more bodybuilder-esque. And then I did like a 20-minute walk with a 60-pound vest. So I'm training more like that now, of like, so when I go heavy, I don't go as heavy a lot of times on regular lifts, but I'll like still do more strongman stuff. And then once a month or so, really like load it up and push it hard.
Have you written a book around that have you written a book around that yet? I mean, is that something where that's a new book idea for you?
Well, actually it's a course I'm working on for ISSA, the personal training certification. So I got a call with them at actually about, what time is it right now? About an hour and a half. So I'm going to, that's what I'm working on right now. So a lot of this stuff is that way, but this is a more holistic way. So for instance, I got the Jailhouse Strong interval training. That's a book on interval training. I would assume people figure out by the name. Anyways, yeah, you never know these days. But anyways, so that's more interval training. So this is going to integrate in, more aerobic training, things like that too. Of like, but like not like, again, I'm not a big fan of jogging, not because I don't like jogging. I just feel like I was screwing around jogging and I got my endurance way up, but then I felt tight. Like the sprinting makes me feel tight in a good way. I walk around, everything feels tight. The jogging made it feel like, I'm walking these short steps and stuff because my legs are tight in a bad way. And it never fully adapted. So,
yeah, I feel the same. Like if I go, like my wife likes to run longer distances. I go with her. I feel like my body is dying. But when we go out and sprint, I feel like, okay, I've done something. So.
Yeah, the tempo runs felt good for the, as long as they're not too fast, that's how I felt good on that, just because it was, it felt like they stretched me out a lot too. Like,
yeah, it kind of flushes you out, and it's kind of a recovery thing. Yeah. Yeah.
How old are you, Josh? How old are you now?
I'm 38.
All right. So we're pretty close. Derek's a little more seasoned than we are. We're not going to get to that. I'll be 42 in a month. How have you dealt with, because, I'm a little stubborn. I don't like, people are like, oh, you're getting older and things have got to change. And I'm like, bullshit. No, they don't, but they kind of do. I mean, you gotta admit it a little bit. You're thinking a little bit differently. And in the past, your body may be able to handle so much more volume. And you just, at 22, you're just, you're sore for a day and then you're recovering a lot quicker. How has that changed? How is your whole approach to recovery and maintaining your mobility and making sure your body feels good? How has that changed?
Well, it's probably tougher to say, because like when I was powerlifting and stuff, I didn't do it. I did some real short sprints and plyometrics, so that was about it. So it's better now than it was then, because I do it. So it's not like, it's not like a fair saying like, as like I'm getting better with time type of thing, which I am, but it wasn't like doing it the whole time either. So I think the biggest thing now, the difference is I think I handle more volume than ever. It's more, I'm willing to pull back if something's wrong. So like if I could tell something's going to happen or could potentially happen, I stop. That's the only difference is now, because I've already proven to myself that I can, I'm not scared. I can withstand whatever. So now it's like, okay, if this feels like it's getting shaky, just walk away. That's the biggest difference.
That's a very mature thing that a lot of people just can't hold on for some reason. Now I've got a little bit of a selfish question.
Sure.
In your Jailhouse Strong book, you put a picture of this black dude who's one of the most yoked human beings I've ever seen in my life.
Sure.
Who is he? Was he someone that you knew or not?
Was it? It could have been one of two people in there. It's probably either Corey Matthews
or who's the other guy?
Tyrus Hughes.
Might have been Irish. I mean, the guy he looked like he was 6'8". I mean, absolutely yoked. I didn't necessarily know if he was what his background was. I was always kind of curious. And I don't know why that's in my head, but
so
I wanted to know his background.
He's gotten so he's totally straightened out now. So he's he's actually and that's been an interesting thing. Everybody in that book is straightened out now too. They're all living productive lives. So he is he was the youngest. Him and Corey both, the other guy, Corey Matthews, IFBB pro too. They're both somehow, I don't know how the laws work in everywhere, but somehow they got into prison like younger than 18. Like I think Corey was 14 and Tyrus was maybe 16.
Tyrus, that's who it was. Tyrus.
Yeah, so he got thrown in there really early. And I think it was sort of like, he said some older guy just took him under his wing and like just hit the weights every day. And, pretty soon, like, he was the biggest dude in there, and that was because the prisons, mostly on the state level, don't have weights, but federal, because technically, I think the law that they changed in like '96 was not that they couldn't have weights; it's like no more taxpayer dollars could go towards them. So what is interesting is that all donations or the people actually take really good care of them, because think about it, like. That's 96, that's 23 years ago. So for things to be lasting, you have to take good care of it. So I think well, anyways, so Tyrus got in there, he got really strong, and then he got out and he won. He's actually won Mr. Texas, I think, from like someone that doesn't know bodybuilding. You'd look at him and think like, how is he not the top pro? I think there's some like symmetry things he can work on, but from a standpoint of like show muscle, if you just saw him, like, yeah, he's on.
He's one of the most. I mean, I'm not saying from a bodybuilding standpoint. If you were to put him on stage and Steve Weinberger sitting there judging, they're going to tear him apart. But he had one of the more impressive physiques I've ever seen. Someone just standing there, like
absolutely
huge, like big, but not, more of the body that like most guys would want to have, type of thing. Like it just kind of.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, of like showy muscles, he's untouchable.
And strong also, though, right? I mean, was he kind of savage or extremely strong?
Has anybody ever combined a bodybuilding contest with a powerlifting contest? Like, okay, we're going to see what you look like, and then we're going to see what you can actually do. That would be awesome. Common,
so that's sort of how the whole like back in the day, that's like in the 40s and 50s, that was the only way. And they've had other people that have done it, like where they've done a bodybuilding contest and a powerlifting, like the same expo, but obviously that was just that person doing it. But back in the day, it was sort of like when, Bob Hoffman was calling the shots in bodybuilding too. It was, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you should resurrect that, man. I'd be
cool,
huh?
That's cool. That's right. I mean, it is true. It's funny how bodybuilding has changed so much. And when you're going back into the 60s and 70s, I mean, these guys did Olympic lift a lot more, and they did. Yeah. Arnold talked about powerlifting a lot more. And then I feel like we kind of jumped into the era of the early 80s when you started seeing, like kind of like, I would call them, and not to insult them, B-list bodybuilders, Lee Priest and these guys who, when they were training, they almost looked like they weren't even breaking a sweat. They were just contracting muscle. But I really feel like, yes, the physique and drugs has something to do with it, of course, but the physiques have changed drastically. Where do you?
That's the thing is you can get away with that when you're like with more drugs, because like it's just like you can just get away with contracting the muscle. Where I think if not to say like Arnold was natural or anything, but the drugs weren't nearly as profound back then. So so I think that's the main reason, because like Reg Park.
Oh my God, one of the best physique. I mean, unbelievable.
Well, claims to be natural, and I haven't really heard any like, you know, smoking gun to say that he's not. And like, you know, he was one of the strongest people in the world too. Bill Pearl was also, you know, an elite strength athlete as well. I mean, he'd go there and rip a deck of cards out of nowhere and stuff.
Wasn't Franco Colombo a lifter as well?
A great lifter.
Yeah.
She might have been the strongest bodybuilder of that era with Arnold.
I would think so.
Yeah, bodybuilder. Yeah, I mean, he was unbelievable. Really.
Well, Ronnie, you guys know Ronnie Coleman. He did powerlifting meets before he even knew about bodybuilding, let alone compete. He did Louisiana High School Powerlifting Association. You know, Dorian Yates, not a powerlifter, but he got his start, you know, actually he's in a juvenile reformatory, like a, you know, juvenile hall type of deal in England. And they said it was all compound movements, like body weight movements and climbing ropes and stuff. So a lot of these great you know, bodybuilders, like one day we did a comparison of like strength a couple years ago versus, you know, backgrounds versus just regular bodybuilders, and more Olympians have been won by people that had a strength background.
Yeah. And that's how you would start. That's how you would start youth, correct? I mean, wouldn't you go back?
And it's the same with some powerlifters, you know, that a lot of people burn out and get injuries because all they want to do is bench, squat, and deadlift heavy, but they don't take time to work the smaller muscles. So I think, you know, people are a little myopic in their views sometimes.
I think you guys got to start like the functional bodybuilding league and make like strong bodybuilding great again or something like that. Or I don't know.
They sort of did that with that Super League deal.
Oh, what's that?
Super League. It was like, I don't know. I don't think it really took off, but they were doing like, it was stuff like, okay, you have to like, you know, work up to like, say, you know, 30 reps on a barbell curl with this much weight and this amount of time. It was kind of basically they're saying like the hypertrophy range is say 8 to 12, and they came up with some formulas, and like it was like in a circuit sort of, but not like a circuit, like moving exercise, like, okay, you have 10 minutes to complete this and you get 4 minutes to warm up. So complete 30 reps in 6 minutes. So it was actually strategy of like, you know, if it was a 12 rep max, you obviously don't want to go 12 reps right off the bat, or you're gonna be pretty fried for the rest of the deal. So.
Oh, it makes sense. It makes sense, Don. Like we always talk about CrossFit, but everybody's like, okay, it's got to be functional, but people want to look good too. So why it would make a logical sense to have some sort of, you know, something around that.
I totally agree.
What do you think's missing, Josh? I mean, when you peel back the layers, and you know, I definitely say I'm more general fitness than both of you guys, because I'm out in the heart of New York City. I have a club, and people are coming in here. They don't want to get on stage. They don't want to power lift. They come into me and it's the same thing. Like, what are their goals? Oh, I want to be stronger. I want to feel better. I want to look better naked. You know, I want to have abs. And it's like, when you're like, okay. And most strength coaches are like, well, keep the goal the goal. And I'm like, well, why do you have to do that? Like, it's like, this isn't their goal. Like, their goal is not to bench press 225 40 times. Yeah. Their goal is to just feel better. So, but it's funny because I think everyone's so, I never say it right, compartmentalized in like, you have your bodybuilders, you have your strength coaches. You are starting, I mean, that's what I've probably why I'm a fan is I've seen you kind of melding them both. I mean, you've really been, I mean, that's almost, I mean, I know you can do both separately, but a lot of your programs, you are starting to meld a little bit. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
I think it's just, you know, like by default too, because I've been around so much. Just for instance, like I was in high school, my job was I was working at pretty much ran. I was the only employee there a lot of the times. A hardcore bodybuilding gym. There's powerlifting there too, and then just being around. Like I was always in search of what works. So like, for instance, when I'm powerlifting, I'm reading books by like Charlie Francis and people like that. So I mean, it just like it was just like I mean, I don't know, just you know, all I care about is what works. So that's why I've been careful. You know, not to come out with a unique training system and like I have multiple books, because I'm always trying to learn, get new things going. But like a lot of times people will come out with their own system and they're kind of roped in because they like business interest or whatever, but they feel like, okay, I'm going to contradict myself if I do this. And I've just never gotten to that point.
Well, Derek, I mean, you were trained under Charlie Francis. Is that correct?
Yeah. No, I Josh, I'll send you a whole bunch of stuff from Charlie.
Yeah, I'd love to read it.
But yeah, no, and I think he was kind of like that too. He wasn't like sort of bottled up into some template type program. Like he was always looking at things broadly. So I think that's the way to go.
Well, he would just say you could look at people's body language and stuff, what's going on. It was never a template, huh?
No, he, like the funny thing is everybody's like, oh, could you send me the training programs that he wrote? And I don't, he didn't write training programs. Like he wouldn't do like a 6-month periodized program. He would go to the track and he's like basing what he does that day based on what he saw the previous day or the previous week. So he's being like very fluid, which is a lot of people would say, well, that he's not planning, he's not writing the programs, and he has it up here, but he's anticipating where the athlete should be, which is very interesting. He was a very different dude. So
yeah, that's what it seems like.
It was funny. It was when I was because our background here started with golf. My brother was a professional golfer. We got in I mean, now I kind of roll my eyes to it, but 15 years ago, you're doing golf fitness in here. It's it's basically now we just try and create a better athlete to be a better golfer. But I remember at the time I was trying to write out year-long periodized programs, getting the players to peak around specific points, and it became impossible. I'm not even going to say it became hard. It just became impossible because you'd have a player on tour, and a month in when he's in Malaysia, he gets sick, and then next thing you know, he's got a 2-week setback, and he's like, but I can't follow. And you're throwing negative on negative, and periodization. I mean, as it works, but there's just so many variables you have to control. Can you describe that? Have you gotten away from that model?
Yeah, so it depends on what it's for too, because I'm always anybody training with me, even if it's virtual by the way of the internet, they're going to be sending an update. So it's not going to be like I'm going to send you 12 weeks or a year or whatever and just follow it. So I agree there. And then even with periodization further, it's some people become myopic in that too, of like, okay, if we do, say for instance, if like for a tactical athlete, say you focus on speed one day, like aerobic one day, max strength one day, whatever, hypertrophy, so on and so forth. But you call that undulated periodization. But then what if every week you increase the intensity or the volume a little bit? Then is that linear? I mean, like, we could it's just so funny how people want to put labels and everything. A lot of times it's just going to be your experience looking and knowing what to do. And that's why, I was glad to work at 24 Hour Fitness first, just because you got a lot of sessions in, a lot of random different people, saw a lot of things. So it's just, experience doesn't necessarily make you better, because I know plenty of people with a lot of experience that are not improving or going backwards. But if you're actually not going with their agenda, just trying to get them better, and you're, keeping notes and things, you're going to have to get better.
That's a good point, because I know, at least with Charlie Francis' system, he gave me sort of a way to look at the world in terms of training. And then, like you said, now I have the experience to help me kind of slot things in and go, oh, okay, that makes sense now. But certainly, yeah, you need both. You need the guidance and you need the experience.
Sure. The thing with powerlifting, it is a little easier in that regard, is because you're getting somebody ready for a contest a few times a year, and generally people aren't traveling to Malaysia or anywhere else. You tell, hey, you need the next 12 weeks not go anywhere if possible, and type of thing. And that makes it a little easier to peak on a preset date. But a lot of these sports, it would be impossible. Just how many games and traveling and all that. How do you know it's going to affect somebody? Obviously traveling with Malaysia with no foods, less difficult than, if you're a pro athlete, earn $10 million a year and you can eat whatever you want and, bring a massage therapist along with you is different,
Guys, that's probably what impressed me the most about Louis Simmons when I met him 15 years ago. I went to Pennsylvania to listen to him talk in this little, dumpy high school gym. And, with his act, you've heard of, these guys are you're getting a big kick out of them. But at the time, it was I'm 15 years younger, and it's, there's a level of immaturity in there. And, I remember I was sitting there and, asking, well, how do you know when to do fives? How do you know when to do threes, doubles, singles? And he's like, no, we wouldn't plan. And I'm thinking, you plan out the night before. He's like, no, we go into the lift and we start warming up, and then we kind of determine, what it is that we're doing that day based off of how, the bar speed and how it feels. And I remember it did take me years to be able to digest that. I know it's not the only way. I know sometimes you go in there and you're like, no, we're going to hit 5 sets of 5 today, or 6 sets of 2, whatever the hell it might be. But no, I think there's a lot of value to that. I think there's a lot of value to listen to your body. Can you get into that a little bit? before we close out?
Absolutely. So I think it's got to be, it's depending on what the sport is and all that, and it has to be both sides of the coin, because at the same time, most people, unless you're right there with them, being regulate everything, aren't good at listening to their body. I feel like you have too many people that are gung ho that are they're gonna go heavy no matter. If you said, hey, you know what, you got to go heavy if you feel good, light if you don't. They're gonna go heavy no matter what. Other people, it's like the opposite. You're gonna really light no matter. So like so that's the kind of downfall of what's with some of that RPE. If people don't know what that is, rated perceived exertion, like auto-regulatory type of training, basically in a nutshell. If you feel good, go for it. If you don't, pull back a little bit. That can be good when you're right there with the athlete all the time, but it can also be bad because then you're going to be like, you're going to have people that are overly aggressive, people that are too passive, people that want to work too hard, people that don't want to work hard. And, also, in a competition, if that's what you're doing, at some point you're going to have to perform if you don't feel good, and where's that line? So like, if you're, a cop, you've been up for, 48 hours, you're going to work out, it probably would make sense to max out and deadlift. Same time, if you slept 6 hours instead of 8, you probably can still go heavy if you need to. I mean, so there has to be that sort of, again, it all comes back to what we're talking about of like, a case-by-case basis. You can't just, throw out a year periodized program and say, see you later, let me know how it goes.
I know it seems like basic stuff, but I think a lot of the general pop and public are still kind of gearing into this whole 100% this Rocky type mentality isn't always the best approach. All right, well, listen, Josh, Derek and I can't thank you enough. I mean, can you do us a favor? Can you let our followers know where they can find you, where they can get you?
Yeah. So first off, I really appreciate you guys having me on here. I felt like I got a lot out of this conversation, myself on a personal, selfish level. But anyways, joshstrength.com is our website. I'm on Instagram at Jailhouse Strong, Twitter, Josh Strength, Facebook, Josh Strength Method. And then all my books are very easy. It's all on Amazon.
Awesome. And everyone listening, I'm going to repeat myself. Josh is someone I've been following. Josh, your books have been out for 10 plus years, correct?
Not quite that long. The first one was 2011. So I got 13. I have 13 books.
I might be one of the first then to start purchasing your stuff because I was definitely back around then.
Yeah, awesome. So I'll definitely look you up if I'm in New York City.
Definitely love to have you by the club. I'm not sure. I mean, the dumbbells only go up to 125, so I don't know if that's enough weight for you, but we can load the barbell up plenty.
Well, we can set up a contest there, Don, where Josh is in charge of the powerlifting contest, you're in charge of the bodybuilding, and then I'll make them sprint.
I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm just a fitness superhero guy. I'm ready for the screen.
Cover?
I'm a nothing. I don't even know how to categorize myself. What's that?
Yeah. We're going to sprint. They're going to sprint. It's going to be a total functional bodybuilding aesthetic, whatever. Yeah.
Just make sure you got waivers for the sprinting part. I think that's where it's
that's what.
You guys were talking earlier about building up a powerlifter to sprint. I think building up a sprinter to powerlift is a lot shorter and easier myself.
Probably, yeah.
I love it. All right, well, guys, thanks a lot. Josh, thank you again. Derek, thank you. And we'll let you know when it comes out. Maybe you could send us a little bit of love on social when it pops out.
Absolutely. All right, guys.
All right, thanks, brother. Be good.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Derek.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.